Yes, sir.
Seems to work. Great. Ben Lynch, Cleantech Capital Advisors. A lot of other cleantech sectors are pretty obsessed with LCOE at the moment. That's coming a lot from regulatory changes that's forcing them to be more competitive. And then specific to that, cost curves. I think you referred to sort of cost drivers for you, but it seemed to be mostly just filling a sub-utilized factory. But could some of the speakers give their perspectives on natural cost curves for their products based on technology enhancements, learning curve, etc., rather than filling empty factories and amortizing depreciation? Thank you.
Well, I'll just quick start just to finish out with fuel cell energy, because very much a volume story. But at the same time, our fuel cell stacks are 350 kilowatts. We're working on enhancing that to 375 kilowatts. Additional power involves no additional product cost, so that drops to the margin. Our fuel cell stack life is 5 years. That's built into our long-term service agreements, and we're working on extending that to 7 years.
We have very similar experience. We have seen already when we went from 100 series to 1,000 series, again, a lot of volume reduction when we go to the suppliers to buy components. And we saw, for instance, a roughly 25% decrease from the 100 to the 1,000 series. When we double that again to 2,000, we see again a decrease of close to 20%. And I would also like to point something else out. You can go on the NASA website. They have investigated a lot of technologies over the last 50 years. And most new technologies somewhere fall between 15 and 20% learning cycle. And that's both a combination of volume production and, of course, also of value engineering.
Thank you. Yes, Ken.
Hi. A question probably for Kurt and Dave. Two things. Firstly, you both seem to be aiming at a unit of around 400 kilowatts. Is that simply that it's a kind of containerized size unit, or perhaps just explain a bit, why the size? And then a more general question, as US-based companies, at least in terms of rhetoric, the Obama administration's been quite supportive of clean energy. You both made a point, obviously, about wanting to kind of be competitive without benefit of any subsidies and so on. But we've had Stephen Chew's written in Nature about policy and so on. If there was a change in administration, do you see that as potentially affecting the business? So firstly, scale, and secondly, the kind of political environment.
Okay. Okay, for fuel cell energy, we have three primary commercial products. One is a 300 kilowatt, one is a 1.4 megawatt, and one is a 2.8 megawatt plant. So with our technology, it scales very well. The bigger the plant, the better the cost profile. So we actually are focused more on the megawatt size class and working to put out 1.4 and 2.8 megawatt plants. Now, in terms of policy, as you look around the world, various federal, local governments have a variety of incentive programs. The incentive programs that we like are performance-based. So we feel that's best, because then it's up to getting a commercial product in the field, getting a customer to actually buy it, and you get paid for performance. The United States government at the federal level has an investment tax credit for which we are eligible up to 30%. So the challenge, of course, there is your customer needs to be a tax-paying entity. But we have ways around that with tax equity financing as well. That investment tax credit goes through 2016. So on the one hand, you can say it doesn't matter about the election, because that's the one federal incentive out there. On the other hand, then it's a question of what happens, particularly with the Department of Energy. Secretary Hsu, the Secretary of Energy, He was very enthralled with batteries and storage. Over the past 6 to 9 months, he seems to be making a shift, and we're starting to hear him use the word fuel cells. So that's encouraging. Whether it's the Obama administration or the Romney administration, we don't expect any change to the ITC per se. And what we're really focusing on more is at the state level, because at the state level, they seem to be putting in some good programs to help promote adoption. So California, Connecticut, New Jersey are some examples of that. Dave?
I actually would like to echo what Kurt said about the government policies. The only thing I would add is that incentives are good right now for us to start developing, getting the fuel cells out in the field, but both our companies want to make sure that be able to price our products so we don't need incentives, because some days these incentives will disappear. So we want our products to be cost competitive with the grid in order to be able to install them. As far as your question about the 400 kilowatts, our first unit was a 200 kilowatt machine, and we found that many of our customers were buying two. So it was simple math. So what we decided to do was offer a 400 kilowatt unit. And what we're finding now is that there are a number of customers that want megawatts, so they are taking even multiple 400 kilowatt units in order to get the megawatt range.
Hi, my name is Alex Gover. The company is Intralink. First of all, thank you very much for your talks. Intralink has 35 bilingual staff in our offices in China, Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan. And our clients are American and European technology companies who are looking to build their business in that part of the world. I guess I was interested, particularly in Kurt, in your experience in South Korea. You've obviously made incredible headway out there, and I just wondered if you could give us some thoughts on your experience in dealing in Korea, as opposed, for example, to dealing in America or in Europe.
Certainly. The the real advantage we see in South Korea is they have a clear policy. They have clear goals of what they want to do. And when you think about South Korea, very much an export-driven economy. You think about what they've done in shipbuilding and microwaves and cars. And from what we see, they want to do the same thing with clean energy. And the government is investing approximately $40 billion to help create a clean energy industry, both to create domestic jobs and then to become an exporter of renewable power generation around the world. So for us, it's all about having the right partner, and our partner being a steel company. We use a lot of steel, and they have a good reputation in the clout to help impact regulation. So fuel cells are very much valued and appreciated, and underneath the RPS, they have a very good, what's called a multiplier for your financial incentives. So what they've done is they've gone out and decided what are some good technologies. Let's try to promote those adoptions. Now, you mentioned Southeast Asia. Japan's kind of an interesting market as well. A lot of similarities. Not a resource-rich country, a lot of urban density, high fuel costs. So efficient stationary baseload power, that's a market that should make some sense as well. But what it comes down to is direction and working through the utilities. And that's where South Korea is a real leader. If I may, though, let me throw it over to Dave, because I believe you have some South Korean presence as well.
We do have a number of units in South Korea. And as Kurt said, the South Korean government has invested a lot of money in fuel cells and clean energy. In fact, what they did in the transportation area, they funded a number of South Korean universities and industry in order to put fuel cells in automobiles and on the road. So Japan is kind of a special case. Natural gas there is quite expensive, so it's hard to compete with the grid. That may change, but right now it is very difficult. We always look towards China. In fact, we actually have one of our units located, our older unit, Pure Cell 200 located in China. And we will continue to look at that market, and if it makes sense for us to do that, we will move there as well.
And Karl, Ceramic Fuel Cells has some experience in Asia on the supply side in China and also some products in Japan.
Yeah, we have some units in Japan. Japan is actually the leading market for micro CHP, both motor-driven and fuel cells. There are tens of thousands installed, and there are over 100,000 of motor-driven CHP installed. And we also have some projects there, and we have been running fuel cells with Osaka Gas, Tokyo Gas. There's a slight difference there, and that is that the gas companies do invest a lot in product in novel gas technologies, because there's a very strong competition between the electricity companies and the gas companies. But our product is not the ideal product for the Japanese market. They are much smaller, only 0.7 kilowatts. The house is quite small. And there are a large number of competitors there, Japanese competitors like Eneos and PEM-based Panasonic systems, etc. But we see it as a market in the future. We also, particular for the small commercial sector, because our system is 2 kilowatt, and we will continue working there. On the supply side, we use the Asian base quite a bit for our supplies. Some of you might have read recently that we have a ceramic company as an strategic investor, a Chinese ceramic company. I have persuaded the board in 2006 when the discussion came up whether we make ourselves and build a ceramics business, that we shouldn't do that. I see the cells something similar to the solar business, where the cells will become a commodity and the volume will drive the prices. So if we produce only for ourselves, we will never have the volume to get the costs down enough, right? Because electronic ceramic components are purely volume driven. When you can make a fully automated factory or line which runs 24 hours a day with very, very little manpower in it, then you make high cost, and that has been proven in all other electronic ceramics. Just give you an example. When you ask one of them, they say it should cost at least, at the most, double the material cost in production. We are a fair bit away from that at the moment.
I know we're a bit behind schedule. I think we've got 2 more questions. Gentleman in blue.
Good morning, it's Tim Caulfield, Gemini Renewable Energy. We're a project developer. I'm interested that nobody's mentioned the African market, the sub-Saharan African market at all, with its natural application for distributed generation and electricity prices based on diesel of between 40 and 50 US dollar cents. I wonder if the manufacturers and organizations would like to comment on that.
Sure, I'll start. When you think about the African continent, South Africa is probably the one that jumps to the forefront, at least in our radar. And the need seems to be there. It's not an easy place to do business. And as a smaller company, what we're really focused on is a density strategy. If we go into a market, we want to make sure that we can see a continual order flow that would support our investment in service. And we also need to prioritize our opportunities. So where we are right now and some near-term opportunities, particularly Europe, we feel those are the best opportunities for the moment. South Africa is on our radar screen, but that's probably more of a mid-term opportunity for us.
I also would like to say that you do have, as a small company, you do have to focus where you work first. And particularly the issue of a service and installation infrastructure always becomes very, very critical when you look at other market segments. So for that same reason, we have focused on Europe as the #1 market, and of course our home market, Australia as well. And we are looking on the side at the US and Asian markets. But in the future, we probably will look at Africa as well, because we do see a significant opportunity for small systems in the off-grid area.
I don't know if you're aware of the business Diverse Energy. They've been through our program, and they are specifically targeting the Southern African market for mobile telecoms particularly. Their technology is ammonia for power, using ammonia as a fuel source. And they've got sources of ammonia in Southern Africa, and their key selling point is security of fuel supply. Diesel tends to go walkabout. You only steal ammonia once.
I'm sorry, but we're going to have to leave it there. We're behind schedule, but feel free to grab one of the speakers during the coffee break. Thank you very much.